Hello and welcome to the commentary for the last episode of Bombay. My name is Vikram Tapadia. I wrote and directed this episode and I also created the show. Here we are. It is kind of cathartic to watch this alone several weeks after our premiere in my room in college, which I'm going to leave in a bit in my last few days here, and just talk over the whole thing. But here we are. Yeah, and that's a short recreation for the first ever appearance of Bombay from the first episode. Like, this entire scene is kind of an homage to the first scene from the pilot, and we took several takes to get that pan right. I don't know if we did in the end, but I still like it. Here we had the segment for Pratiti Singh. No offense to anyone actually called Pratiti, but yeah, I leaned over to Avijata while writing the segment and I was like, think of the most annoying name for a girl you can give me. And well, Pratiti arrived. It was really fun to work with Shagun. So the thing about this episode is that we didn't have the script finished when we started shooting because of how the timeline was. Like, I have known the ending for the show, which, by the way, I hope you've seen the episode before listening to the commentary, because I'm going to spoil like everything. But I knew the ending to the show and what happens to Bombay for several years now, but I didn't know exactly how we'd get there. So I didn't know at the time that we'd have a second scene with Pratiti as well. But yeah, it was really fun to work with Shagun. It was really fun to see Shagun and Suhani together in a scene because they're friends in real life, and that dynamic always is interesting to watch play out in a sense. Yeah, and they have a very interesting dynamic in real life too, but I'll leave that to a different time to explain. These segments from previous episodes, I guess, are helpful since we don't have a previously on for this episode. We usually go over like what happened in the last couple episodes to see what's important to include in the previously on segment, but I mean it's the finale for the entire show, so like if you haven't followed up to what's relevant right now, then you might as well watch the other stuff first, and yeah, but like these little flashes from previous episodes were written into the script, so they weren't a choice that we made in post-production. I think another interesting thing about this episode is like how Bombay's hallucinations come to life more than they have ever before. In a sense, it's very Fight. Oh, there's Enya. Hey, Enya. In a sense, it's very Fight Club. But also, I really like the fact that we know that she's hallucinating. She knows she's hallucinating, and in previous episodes, we've seen her like take substances to get into her own head and try to hallucinate and get away from reality. Here it's kind of the opposite, where she needs to be on something because her brain is so fried in a sense. I really like that water shot. I had to sit far away to make sure my camera doesn't get wet, but yeah. There's Tavishi. She was a new entrant to the show just for this episode. She did a pretty good job with Belle. It was fun to see her dynamic with Mihika, especially in their scene, in the segment with Belle that's in Bombay's room, which is 15 minutes of this whole thing, but because we're jumping around from location to location and they had such an interesting chemistry, it really didn't feel like that while watching it. This conversation, of course, is sort of a reference to the lighter guy stuff from the first episode. Another reason why this reference fit out is because, as we'll see later, it is possible that all the stuff that Bombay and Belle, like all the stuff we see later on in the room with them, could be part of Bombay's imagination, but I'll come to that later. So I've left that open to whether you want to believe it or not, but yeah. I really enjoyed directing Mika in these multiple different versions here in the scene. the green hoodie Bombay, or like as we call her, like future Bombay, or like, loser Bombay, is such an interesting take on the character, especially like in the scene where we see her just rot and do nothing in her room. um I really want to take the character in a place where you feel not just bad for her, but so mystified, like what happened, how is she so pathetic, so far removed from where she was, especially given the fact that the first half of this entire episode is also technically a spin on both the first and the third episodes. Since of course there's something from last year that's haunting her, which is very reminiscent of the pilot of the show, and structurally, of course, the fact that we have a very fast-paced, exposition-heavy narrative and a drug sequence, that itself is kind of a reference to the third episode. But yeah, the voices here are very, very fun to do. They were also written into the script, but in post, of course, this was a very interesting scene to put together. Yeah, this bit though, while shooting, it took us so long, and it's only like 20-30 seconds of the entire show, but we'd spent at least like 90 minutes to like a couple hours on this, because we couldn't get the angles right, we couldn't get the emotions right. The foot that steps over in the heel is Sohani's, and very interestingly, because like Sohani and Mika look very different, I actually color graded a bit of her skin to match Mihika's skin tone, which is an interesting challenge. I don't know if it paid off completely, but I think the illusion stands, and like the interaction between the two Bombays, and now Bombay and Ghostria, is also so interesting to see. We don't have that much Ghostria in this episode because I did not want to overuse her, but I think the capacity that she does serve is very poignant to the story and Bombay's arc. And I mean, I think like, because it's essentially her talking to herself. It sheds more light on what she's actually going through than she can ever with another real person. Teishi also did a really good job with Ghostria, I think, in this scene and in her last and towards the end of the episode as well. That's the theme. That's the theme of the episode. Do you want to be yourself if you know you are a horrible person, or you think you're a horrible person, or are you actually a horrible person? Are you actually not a horrible person, but because you think so lowly of yourself while also having a giant ego that, oh, okay, I'm spiraling, never mind. This was originally shot for the 5th episode. So was this. We didn't actually have any new scenes for Vatsal to do in this episode. This was actually the day Tamanna actually found out the result of the election. None of the actors knew the ending of the script while they were shooting most of their scenes. And most of the supporting cast only found out Bombay's ending on the day of the premiere, which is very exciting to see. I didn't want a typical reel or like exposition scene where like, oh yeah, Tanvi has won the election, blah 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 blah. So this sort of quick paced thing where we just see the reactions, we sort of know what's happened, and then we cut to this actual swearing in scene. I think it worked much better than any exposition scene could. And of course this we framed to be as awkward as possible. It does have a few funny scenes this episode, despite being pretty dark in tone otherwise. But yeah, this for example, it always gets a laugh out of me how awkward it is, especially Rommel just staring into space and Suhani clapping. And here we pick up right from where episode 5 ended. in the much awaited conversation between Bombay and Rehan. Two characters who have not actually spoken to each other ever directly in the entire show. If you look at their interactions in episode 2, Rehan was just in Bombay and Ria's room and then he leaves out the word. In episode 3, Bombay hallucinates him. He does not actually appear as himself in episode 3. In the 4th episode, Rehan talks to Gayatri but never has a scene with Bombay. In the Halloween special, they have bits together, but technically that's not our Rehan canonically. And 5th episode also, there's no scene between them until the ending. So the interaction between what was, I mean, not anymore, but what was originally like supposed to be the main big bad of the show and the protagonist, I wanted to save for either 5 or 6. And just because of pacing reasons more than anything else, it came in 6 and 5. You can see the sun coming out in this scene finally. We shot this at I think 8 in the morning. This is the same location we shot the lunch scene from the first episode with Bombay and Karan and his friends. So it was nice to revisit that place, but just in a very different context. This scene, I don't know if it translated or if it I think went in a different direction. But initially, when I was thinking of the scene, I was thinking of the bit from Heat between Al Pacino and Robert De Niro in the coffee shop. That was, I think, a 6-7 minute scene, if I'm not wrong, where they talk at length about their philosophy and everything, and have this sort of mutual respect for each other. I think originally Rehan in his mind also thought of something like that when he sat down to talk to Bombay, but Bombay, I think, does not respect him, and maybe she does pity him to an extent, but not like she says. More than anything, she just loathes him because of her own anger towards herself, towards him, and yeah, there was no sense of having a respectful conversation with an adversary from Bombay's side. I think this monologue continues the humanization arc that we did, or we tried with Rehan for the 5th episode, where we sort of reveal his own inner conflict and show how he's also sort of cracked under pressure after all the lies are sort of mounted on top of each other. And now begins Mihika's monologue that I will talk over. This took a few takes to get right, but honestly, every take Mihika was just bang on ready with this. At least in the way I wanted. I really like the little finger thing that she does with Issues Upstairs. His reaction makes me laugh every time. But very fitting. I like the scene quite a lot. I mean, the only thing that sort of annoys me is how we started out in a very foggy setting and then it turns sunny. But that's how the actual weather went, so I'm not gonna blame us so much for that. I have a feeling she doesn't like him. But yeah. And that's it for Rehan. I always thought this was going to be his ending, especially after it became clear that Tanvi was going to take his place as the main antagonist for the finale. Yeah, there wasn't really anywhere else for his character to go. We had to shoot the scene in New Campus. So for those who don't know, like Ashoka is at this time of recording at least separated into two campuses. One is the original, and the other one is like just a couple buildings, which we call New Campus. Which is quite far away from where everything else is. So we had to shoot here, right next to the highway because there was a concert going on at the time, and we didn't want any interference in our audio. This is also where we shot the Pratiti Singh scene from earlier. Oh, good shot. This is where we shot the Pratiti Singh scene from earlier. I think this was right before we shot that one. Kind of a reference to lighter guy putting his chin on Bombay's shoulder from episode 3. I did think of that when we were shooting this. Love this transition. Also, CMV took some time to get right, but yeah, I think Mika's gasp in the beginning and then this whole thing did it so well. Sometimes I think they immerse themselves a bit too much into the more adventurous parts of the show, but I love the scene so much. And I guess a fun fact, this red light is not really on us. This kind of just happened on its own because of the camera settings and the ring light we were using. The shadow approaching also originally not in the script, but I had the idea when I was like lying on the bed to get the Bombay POV, and I saw Sohani walking around and I was like, walk again in that direction. Had to include the dogs for the last episode. They've been such a pivotal part. Some of the best supporting cast members, might I add, right here. Never had any scheduling conflicts, never had any other commitments. Always pulled up. That's how you need to be in the industry, people. That's how you need to be to get anywhere in life. Like the stray dogs outside campus. I like the shot, but this scene, that wasn't planned. We just found this in this office, in this professor's office that we invaded without any permission or anything at 5 a.m. because we found it open. But we know the professor, so it's fine. Or at least I originally wanted to cut this scene because the episode was turning out to be far longer than anticipated. But Mika and Sonia were quite insistent that it stay. So we reached a compromise, and there's only, I think, a bit of it. We still cut around 1 minute, 15 seconds from this scene for time. But yeah, that is my voice as the counselor, which was again always planned. Initially, there was a scene with Bombay meeting a counselor in the very first episode, which never made it into the final script. But was used for the audition process for Bombay. So it was kind of sentimental for a scene with an off-screen counselor here, because this is almost structured entirely like how the audition was, but with different dialogues, obviously. And it was also one take. I mean, the full thing is a one take, but we don't have the full thing in the episode anymore. There's another deleted scene with a teaching assistant that Bombay meets before the counselor scene, but we cut that for time as well. Back in the past, this was an actual drainage issue outside my room on the day off, but hell, it was pretty helpful to include here. Tamanna's hand pulling up a suitcase, kind of mimicking what we will see later in the ending, but we didn't know that at the time either. A little bit of melodrama between the sisters, and she leaves. It has been a while since I did a commentary on my own. I don't know if I'm being annoying or any of my bits are landing or not, but if you're watching still, then I guess I'm doing something right. And if you're not watching, then that's okay too. Most of these are Pranil's friends who pulled up as extras, which we always appreciate. It gets harder and harder, honestly, here to find people to just sit for even 30 seconds of time. Everyone is always doing something at Ashoka. A little cameo from my camera bag there on the side. I like including my my laptop, my bag, my bottles here and there wherever I can point to later. And it becomes very sandy when I lose those things later in life, and I'm like, oh, there's my bottle. I lost that 2 years ago. It's in that episode. Oh. This is a reference to something that actually happened at Ashoka, where we had these water coolers in our dorm halls, and they just went away for some reason or the other. It doesn't matter. So now you only find a couple of these in some academic blocks and the gym and everything. So kind of reference to real Ashoka events. Also something that happened outside Ashoka, there was a giant cigarette tapri here that was demolished for alleged encroachment, which I will not get into, but we did sort of weave that into the show since it's been such a big part of Bombay and scenes you shot there and everything. He did a really good job with this monologue. Can't really fault her for these large chunks of dialogue. She's done this and the one in episode 5. Love this shot. I had to get on top of a slab in Knowledge 5 to do this. The music for this also goes really, really well. We had due to the really, really good job with the score that he did do for this episode, and Abhijato also helped out with score. But this scene basically required a more militarized version of the Tanvi theme we heard in episode 5, and it fits so well into the whole thing. I love this bit too. I love the tear of the Rehan poster. Poster tearing has become such an integral part of the show for some reason. It's everywhere. But I don't mind. Kind of meta with what Tanvi is saying and what Bombay is doing and seeing here. This is a reference to a similar shot from the first episode. The elevator chime we hear in the entire show, at least when we remember to include it, is also a reference to Better Call Saul. For any of the fans of that show, you'll recognize the chime from the first episode of Saul and like some other episodes as well. Basically, it's the same lift sound that we hear whenever someone goes into an HHM building. But yeah, I love Saul so much, and we've always tried to include it whenever we have a lift opening and closing here. Casablanca, great movie. One of the oldest movies I've actually seen. I wanted to include it. If Bombay is watching any movie, I wanted to include Casablanca to be the movie that she's watching. Mold on the chip. That is actually detergent. Love that shot for some reason. This one. I think it's the lighting. A lot of it we were just blessed with because Mika has great lighting in the room. Like blue post-it notes on the desk light and some lamps that we used in the entire episode. This scene we shot, I think, 2 or 3 times. It took us a good hour and a half, just going to different rooms, different corridors around campus to shoot it, because there's always some or the other problem. There was noise, there were random people coming around here and there in the shot. Yeah. Tried shooting first in Mihika's corridor only, like in the room we just saw. But yeah, shout out to RH1 sixth floor for being a horrible floor with people who are always coming and going for some reason in and out of the rooms, just like they're opening their doors. But anyway, I'm just frustrated. I really liked writing this scene, and I think it played out really well also. It is so painfully awkward. But it also feels like a real conversation, especially with how obliviously patronizing and condescending Gayatri is here. Love the scene too. There is something people keep telling me, what is Tanvi's deal with waste management? But I think for all her faults, it is something she genuinely cares about. Wow, that dustbin did not move after Mika kicked it. They need more protein in that diet. This got such a laugh when we screened it, because not because of the actual thing, but also the second kick and then picking up the trash anyway and then throwing it and throwing it in the right bin. Shooting wise, this was the first scene we shot with Tavishi. Um, Not the best place in the world for lighting, but I kind of like the dingy vibe. Another scene that this entire episode, along with the fifth one, was entirely shot on my camera, my new camera that I got just last semester, and I don't think we really couldn't have done it on anything else, especially if you like compare how this episode looks with something like the first or the second or even the third episode. We've just made so much progress in how the show looks aesthetically and lighting conditions and everything, and we really could not have managed something like this previously. But yeah, the library stairs look so good behind Mika as well. That's another thing I really wanted to include. She's so pathetic. But it's also so oddly human to just want to talk to someone, maybe while having a massive ego, and not admitting it, but nevertheless. Something I think most seniors can resonate with in most colleges around the world, unfortunately, including me, maybe. Cheese Maggie, a classic of college life. We did actually make this on set, obviously, and right after this bit ended, because we needed the empty Maggie pan as well, all of us, just the four of us, ate this together, which is kind of nice, especially since we did not have time for dinner that day. This entire bit of Bombay and Belle and shooting in Mika's room took us, I think, 4 hours, but we got everything done in one go, which is wonderful. It is also entirely plausible, as I said before, that Belle is not really here and Bombay is imagining it. Hence the cheese Maggie, I mean the Maggie in general, and also the end, how the scene ends and how it triggers Bombay's transformation back into something resembling her earlier self. And now the jump scare. This actually creeped people when we screened it, which I was semi glad with. Anya turned to me and said, "This is the real Halloween special," which was really funny. But yeah, I mean, I always wanted the last episode to have some, I wouldn't say horror vibes, but like at least some scary moments. I wanted us to feel as scared as Bombay was feeling inside at times. Did once, referring to, of course, one of the last scenes from the third episode. This angle is not something we've done before when someone is lying down on camera. So they really wanted to do, and I think the little bed sheet behind Meek also like adds so much. I mean, what it mostly adds is hiding the wall, and of course, like everything that's put on it, but still adds a lot. Sorry, I didn't speak. I was kind of locked in. But yeah, of course, those bits like the cutaways that we see here, and of course, the black box bit that we're gonna see right now, were shot separately. And I mean, things like this really are a way to show how much effort we really take into The production for the show, shooting in various different locations with different people, shuttling around so many different things, with so many different people, getting extras, getting supporting cast, and of course, the actors also, especially Mihika in this episode, doing such a good job despite the circumstances. So originally there was no segment to be shot in the black box for this episode, but we did have a booking made with the space for Kingdom of Crime, a feature film that I co-directed this semester. So because we still had time on hand and 2 hours to kill, I think 2 hours, maybe a little bit under, I wrote this entire segment right there and then, and we shot the black box bits instantly. So yeah, very, very adrenaline fueled, but not something I would recommend to people who are getting into film for the first time. We didn't have anyone dedicated to doing lights for Black Box also this day. This is just Suhani fiddling around with the console, which also took a while to figure out, but we did manage eventually. Within the script, this is like the slowest segment of the entire episode, but yeah, the way we've done it, it really doesn't feel that way. And I'm really glad because it would have been a 15-minute crater in the entire thing otherwise. That just slows down everything and makes you really feel the length of what you're watching, which is quite a long film. But yeah, this is Suhani again, and she does such a great job mimicking the Bombay walk. This is of course real Bombay trying to escape, but there is no escape from yourself. Love this shot too. A little cliche, but sometimes one has to be. Something else like we only could have really pulled off in the black box with the lighting and the darkness and everything. This also freaked people out. So obviously we did not shoot this together since we don't unfortunately have access to two Mexica's. I think the world would be a much better place with two Mexica's, but unfortunately there's only one. So these bits were shot with the camera looming over Kulkarni while Tuishi was right off screen. And these bits were shot with me on the pillow and like the camera aimed up to what would be Bombay's point of view and Mika behind Tuishi. The change of clothes, I don't remember who recommended, whether it was Mihika or Tuishi, but of course we were hinting at the fact that they've been intimate, so She's basically wearing what Bombay is wearing under the hoodie, as we see later. Which then again could be hinting at her not being actually here. There's a line we cut from the scene where Bombay says, like, of course I'm horrible, I just fucked her first year, something like that. But it was quite harsh and a little icky, and I did not want people to be very visibly icked out by Bombay so early into the episode. So it was removed. But yeah, I mean, we did really want that to be the implication. I think because of how comfortable they are with each other physically, that sort of comes across anyway. This monologue is also slightly shortened from what it was originally. We've hinted at the dynamic between Bombay and her parents and her sister before, but I wanted this to be the most pivotal piece of information that's been withheld so far. And just Bombay being like an unloved, unheard child even at home, which sort of points to a lot of issues she has as an adult here. Tvishi's hand here was improvised, not originally in the script, but kind of worked. This is very purposely reminiscent of what Real Ria did say to Bombay in episode 2 when they met in the library cafe. And very purposely so. I did want to mimic that. Basically, she hears the same advice from someone she's more than friends with, in a way. The fact that someone in the corridor slammed a door right after Tanvi Sharma, it's so good. It's so good. I was so thankful for that. And we left it in, obviously. His bit is, it's so funny, and even the camera movement here really pays off. And that's the first time she said her own name in the entire show. In the first episode, Bombay's transformation comes when someone else says her name out loud for the first time in the episode. This time, she's the one who says it out loud. So that was very intentionally planned. And here we go with the intro sequence. Of course, my ADs were very surprised when I told them that it's not going to play for the first 40 minutes of the show. But I think in hindsight, a wise call because it really hits here. Definitely one of the best pieces of music to come out of the show. Um, so iconic. It'll always be so close to me and so special to me. Dun, 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 dun. Again, very important to us to not have the white shirt in play right now. One, for the timeline. Oh, again, so one implication, of course, of the Maggie being there is that Belle made her breakfast and went away. But what we really wanted to hint at, since the bed is also empty and neatly made, is that Belle was never here. But of course, that's up to you to decide. The shot was just the one that we just saw, of course, kind of mimics the same one from episode 2 because it is in the same location in Bombay, of course, it's in the same outfit. This also got a loud cheer from the audience on the day off, because it references the poster for the very first episode of the show. This scene, also heavily chopped for what we included, was almost cut entirely, but we kind of needed it to establish that Bombay and Pranav are on this new mission now. Love the pen throw. So originally the scene goes on, but we had to cut short for time. The boxes that Bombay is carrying here actually really belong to Mihika and have their name and address on it, but we blurred that out for privacy reasons. This is probably my favorite montage. I don't know about the entire show, but definitely in the episode, but definitely top three in the entire show as well. I really love the music that Avijato cooked up for this very late at night before the premiere, and it really fits so well. Param did a good job with being a broken up uh, boyfriend. He kept asking me, "Do I look sad enough?" after every take. I think we did two takes for this. The first take we did, Mika sipped the non-alcoholic beer a bit too hard and it went up their nose, so we had to do a second one. This is the last scene where we were shot with Gyan. Um, Very nice to work with him. He's been in random roles. I think in three, four, and this one. So we've known him for about a year now. And there's Pratyush. So the cooking club bit is actually from a throwaway line in the fourth episode. Um, but I struggled for a while about what the connection to Shri will be in Bombay's mission to bring him down. And then Abhijat reminded me about the cooking club thing. And it was just, it hit so instantly. And then Gayatri could very easily be part of that too. Love this bit. They don't know who she is bit. Me was Mika's idea to slam the window, and their arm hurt for like the next 2 days after that. But so brilliant, so brilliant. I love that bit so much. I've had some scene involving laundry bags in the laundry room in my head for years now, and I finally got a chance to do it here, where Future Bombay plants drugs in the substance control minister's laundry bag right here. So Honey got an oddly large amount of screen time in this episode, which I'm always glad with. She's always around and she's always dependable. Love the rock inspired score for this bit. Dhruv is so good at that every time. And another POV shot. I do quite enjoy them. This is the only scene that that Hia and Praneel shot together in the entire show. Apart from, of course, the deposition stuff from episode 3, but this is their only like one-on-one conversation. I try to get like these unusual combos out of the way. Like first there's Bombay and Rehan, there's Tanvi and Pranav. Later on in the episode we'll see Tanvi and Gayatri as well. So it's interesting to see how these characters who have not yet interacted, how they play out here. We shot the scene in one of the meeting rooms that we frequent sometimes for long nights of editing. It was nice to include it one last time. My Congress. This is one of my favorite scenes. There's also a really fancy location and an upgrade from what the Congress had as their headquarters under Rehan. But I love almost everything about this scene. I love Hia's manicness. I love the the supporting cast here, which are all men. I love the bit between Hia and Sohani. It's so good. Love the reaction from Pratyush here. I got very mad at Gyan during the scene though. He was checking the IPL score a bit too often for my liking, and every time we panned to him when we did reaction shots, he made me crack instantly. Which is why you don't see a reaction shot from him. We did, I think, three takes of this, and I honestly loved each one of them. I think one of the first two is what we've used for a majority of this bit, but two takes. We used two takes for this entire segment. Um, and in the script originally, although it didn't go in that direction, I did even want to write a bit where Tanvi sort of plays with Shrishti's hair and even tugs at it. There's really like a sense of control she really establishes that there's nothing you can do with me invading your space and invading your boundaries here. And of course, we don't show Gyan here because his reaction made me crack every time. This is the last scene we shot with Ranil, and I also think it's his best acting in the entire show, which Mihika disagreed with vehemently for some reason, but I think Ranil agrees with me. Open Secret. That was the name of the second episode. There's also a scene that could have been from the second episode, the way it's shot, and the fact that it's a kaleidoscope scene, which we had only two of in the second episode, but we had like 5 or 6 shoots of them. We were not good at getting those right at that time. Hey. I think this scene is also frightening for Bombay because she generally does not know the answers to these questions. All she can do is just throw him insults and then say, "Oh yeah, trust me, I know what I'm doing." Ba, 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 ba. That line has become quite iconic in a very short amount of time. This is a reference to Bombay being a TA in the very first episode and Gayatri calling it the teaching thing, and of course, cut to her being a TA herself here. Tamanna, who's not actually a Paul major, was very confused about what Diverge's law is or what FPTP is, and it took some time to convince her, but I think she got it eventually. And of course, this whole thing is also a joke about her being the third party and being squeezed out and no one caring about her when she ran for office herself a year ago. This is the last scene Mihika and Tamanna shot together, and yeah, there was a lot of crying right after we stopped. The montage here was also so fun to do, and also accompanied by some brilliant rock type music from the roof. Um, but yeah, not only did we get to make fun of Tamanna's height one last time, but we basically had no real dialogues written for this. We had no real plan. I asked them to improv a scene of them cooking something, and they did, and we shot randomly and made a pretty fun montage out of it in the end. There's also like one of the, I think, the most wholesome scene the two of them actually have as sisters in the entire show, which was very nice to include before it all wrapped up in the end. Who puts that much onion in? Oh, it's fine. That's great for your breath. I've been told. Fun fact though, what they actually made did not end up tasting half bad, despite the abomination you see here on screen. But yeah. Also, the last scene we shot here ever in RH5 pantry. Horrible, horrible place to shoot because of the motion sensing lights. And a very sharp transition to puking at the actual day of the event. These two look so good in the little hairnet caps though. Especially Tamanna, she looks like an actual babushi. This is the same extra from the TA scene. We shot this like I think almost immediately after that. So very nice of her to pull up for this as well. Another thing that was always meant to happen from the beginning, kaleidoscope getting shot. Trainee has not been getting that much screen time in the last few, in the late second half of the show, and I'm so glad that we were able to get so much done here with him. And I think he really did a great service to everything we provided him. So I'm really glad. I'm really glad how well utilized Pranav is in this episode, and I think that scene was a great showcase of that. So this scene was originally meant to be at night, but because Teshi got sick, we had to shoot it the next morning. And there's a line in here, I'll point out when it happens, where Rhea says, I think we're right under Orion, which makes a lot of sense when you're like stargazing at night. Not so much when it's bright and early in the morning. And a lot of the scenes here, like this was supposed to be about dinner instead of breakfast, and last night instead of last day. But we changed it to accommodate for the new timing of the scene. But the Orion line we just left in there as a small joke, since it was an awkward conversation anyway, and it could be construed as Rhea cracking a light joke. But yeah, I've been asked a lot about that. Why is she talking about Orion when it's like bright and early and they can barely open their eyes, about how sunny it is? The color for the scene is also really great, but of course, to, that's your timeline. But to make it simple where it is in the timeline, we had to go with the black and white route. Nice little reference to Vatsal by Teshi by rubbing her hands. It is so hard to get audio right for scenes like this also because it's quite particularly windy and the birds are a nuisance. And you kind of have to hide the mics, and we use lav mics, so it's not really possible to hover them over the actors either. But we did a pretty good job, and fortunately we avoided a dub for this scene. And here comes the kiss. Um, something pretty bold that we never thought we'd do in the show, but I think while writing five, I knew that I needed a scene like this between uh, Ria and Bombay in the sixth episode. I just wasn't sure um, whether it'd be in this episode or in episode five at the time, and I didn't know whether it'd be in the past, distant past, or in the future timeline. But I think it worked out pretty well, and I'm really happy with um, the thing we did with the shadows as well. This kiss scene I think got the biggest reaction out of anything in the episode, apart from the very last ending. I just got a very big reaction from the crowd. Bombay throwing away the glasses is also something that was always meant for the last episode. Um, they were always a symbol of Ria and a symbol of trying to face away from the world, and she just did not need them anymore. Got a loud gasp from the audience then too, and even Anya turned to me and said, "Did you actually throw them?" And I was like, "No. There's like we built like a thing within the dustbin, so they're safe. They're with me." The scene was also so fun to do, and for some reason, everyone kept breaking. This is like we had to do like 13, 14 takes of this because people kept laughing at different things. At times, Hia would break like because of how Pratyush slammed the cupboard or didn't slam the cupboard again and again. It was mostly Hia breaking, but occasionally Tamanna and Pratyush would as well. That is a poster for Take Two, which is a great play directed by Abhijato. It is covering a poster for the Halloween special, which Suhani actually has up in her room. Love having a scene between these two. Two powerhouses of performance that haven't interacted at all in the entire show until this point. They're also both quite short and around the same height, so it was the blocking wise, it was pretty fun to do. Even now, a year after she is disassociated from Bombay, everyone still thinks Gayatri is just a pawn, including Tanvi, who's been sort of itching for a fight with Bombay for a year now and sort of paranoid about what Bombay's next move could be. And now that's here, she's like more restless than anyone can be. And of course, she's jumping to conclusions thinking that Gayatri is involved with this whole plot. That was Tamanna's actual last scene she ever shot for the show, which is very fitting. And here comes Hia's last scene that we shot for the show um, at the library steps. It was very interesting for me to do like have a scene in the past with Bombay at this location in the day, and here Tanvi at night time calling up Bombay. This is Reddy's Auditorium, featured for the first time in the show, and also where we screened the finale for the series. This is technically the last scene together, Bombay and Tanvi, and it I really love not only how it's like structured, but how they pulled it off, the two of them, because they did not have each other to act off of. And I really love the monologue from Tanvi, especially towards the end, and Mika's reactions, even without saying anything. It's so charged with energy, and it's honestly so sad considering how they were so close and how they were friends before, and just what has happened to their relationship. They're both so demented in their own way. Subtle foreshadowing. This is Gayatri's last scene chronologically. One of the first she shot for the episode though. Um, but yeah, scene is also written out of order. So at the time, I had not, like, I had mentioned the room raid here, but I had not written that scene yet. It's always very interesting to shoot that way. Not something I've done before. I don't know if it's something I'll do again, but yeah. A scene that we did have a lot of trouble with audio for, especially because it's so windy here. You can tell with Mihika's hair flying in the distance, but Mihika's bits are here, I think, almost completely dubbed, but Tamanna's are not. We did dub with Tamanna as well, but we ended up using audio recorded on set for her. There was a line here that was cut from Bombay where Bombay replies, the usual shtick, question mark. And we couldn't include it because Mika can't say shtick right, which is really funny. So we just cut to a reaction shot and then guys, he just moves on like nothing happened. This bit originally in the script was Bombay walking up to Gayatri and just hugging her. But not only did it feel really awkward blocking wise, uh, it felt dishonest almost. I think Bombay needed something far more cathartic and far more just vulnerable. And I think breaking down in Gayatri's lap, just reeling from everything that was just said, finally letting her guard down just hits so much more. And Mihika and Tamanna did something so well here. It actually hits me every time I watch this bit, even though I know it's just both of them performing something I wrote that night only. And this is so brilliant and such a fitting final scene for Gayatri. Also, a callback to the ending for episode 3 where they embrace, and that sticks with me so much to this day as well. We've worked a lot of nights here in this meeting room, and it's nice to have not only a last scene with it, but with Ghostia as well. This was also Teshi's last scene for the show. Of course, when you're watching this for the first time, you don't know what Bombay has up her sleeve, but knowing the context and knowing, like, the fact that she obviously knows what's going to happen to her as well once everything comes out, it's again shed so much light on her as a person and her as a character, and not only caps off something like this entire arc that started in the fifth episode with Ghost Year, but her her journey really from the first episode and coming to terms with herself and who she is, what she's willing to do to get what she wants. But she does eventually, at the end of the day, need someone to hold her hand, tell her everything's going to be okay, and it is technically, if not the love of her life, then the girl that she's very, very obsessed with. And she can't bear to talk to her in real life, so she only has to imagine her telling her this. And now we have the suit up with the white shirt one last time. We shot this at a separate time from everything else. And the last Pratiti Singh scene. So a version of this, of course, this whole confession with Bombay blaming Tanvi for everything has been there since we were writing like episode 2 or 3. A lot of how episode 3 was structured and what information we had there was because it was always going to come back to Bombay blaming Tanvi in the end. Or at least to keep that a possibility open as a possible ending for the show. The bit with Pratiti specifically being involved in this came midway while filming episode 6. And this entire bit with Bombay revealing that, oh, it's because I like Tanvi, that came very, very last minute. And it is one of the things I'm so proud of in terms of writing, in terms of execution, because without it would have been so boring, and it really ties together everything. I had a version of this where Bombay and Pratiti just talk for like 6-7 pages, and it just ends with, oh yeah, I worked with Tanvi, it was all our fault together, blah 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 blah, and it was just never hitting. I pondered for so long, is this really it? Is this like after 6 episodes? Is this how it ends? And it just wasn't it. And I delayed the shoot. I canceled everything. I took 1 or 2 more days with it. And my team was pressuring me. Mihika and Sohani were pressuring me to get the script done, get the scene written so they could finish it, get the script written so they could finish reading the ending, which they did not know at the time. And then I will never forget, it was in AC04. I mean, people from Ashoka will know what I'm talking about, but it was in AC04 on the 7th floor at a random workstation. After banging my head for an hour and a half, I finally got this and I wrote it, and the episode was finally complete. This was the last piece. I had written even the last scene, but I couldn't figure this one out. And it was so cathartic for me personally to finally crack this. In terms of actual shooting, we shot this like, I think 2 days right after it was written. Or like, yeah, 2 days, no, I think 24 hours right after it was written. And we shot the bits with Shagun separately, like at the same time, but we shot everything with her, and to avoid giving out the spoiler because it was so close to us, we then asked her to leave, and then we filmed everything with Mihika separately to preserve the secret until the day of the premiere. So even she did not know what she was reacting to. Love the music for this so much. It always fucking hits, especially towards the end, with Bombay name dropping her, and the reactions from Tanvi. For briefly during editing, we contemplated having flashbacks to previous episodes where Bombay was saying all this, because what she's narrating right now is basically what we saw already in episode 3, and throughout the show. But I wanted to stay on this, and I didn't want to spoon feed people, and I wanted to stay on the acting, I wanted to stay on the reactions, I wanted to stay on everything here in this room, and then of course Tanvi's reaction. This is the first clue, of course, to the fact that she is not talking about Rhea. Mihika and Sonny's reactions to reading this also, I think we will post eventually online somewhere. Um, but they were priceless. They were absolutely priceless. Because Suhani figured out it was Tanvi much earlier than Mihika did. But what Suhani didn't figure out was that it was all a ploy. She actually, like, Bombay did end up fooling Suhani in one way. This is the mic I'm wearing too, by the way. It's kind of a random thing, but while recording this commentary. Oh my god, the music is so good. I'm not even gonna talk about this. Talk over this. So just watch. Okay, I'll let him talking over it. Hia did not know what she was reacting to. As of recording this, Hia still does not know the ending of the show. But my god, I love this so much. I love this so much. And my direction to Mika was just look on the camera as if to say, "I got you, motherfucker." Like she could, like Bombay obviously can't like smile or like publicly acknowledge that it's a stunt or it's a move, but she knows Tanvi is watching and she knows that she won. This bit right here. First of all, kudos to Hia for her performance because we shot this while a concert was going on and some music was blaring. The original audio for this is really really strange. But she pulled off everything so well. This entire bout of anxiety, the panic attack, everything. And the score is also so unsettling. This location is where it appears in the intro for the show, and it's where Mihika's name comes. So, in a way, it is the ultimate sign of victory with Bombay claiming Tanvi in a way. And Tanvi's ending, of course, we left vague, but even the best thing that could possibly happen to her is expulsion from the college, just like Bombay. This is a reference to a shot from episode 1 and 3. There's Vidar and Manas again from the beginning of the episode. We have some friends popping up here and some helpful extras that are not friends as well. But yeah, the extras, Kriti from so many other projects that I've done. But yeah, the entire point of this, of course, is to have people reacting to her, reacting to this. And of course, when we shot with all these people, they did not know what was happening or who they were looking at even. We just told them to look at the camera while it moves across and someone is walking by. This was the last day of shooting for the show. We made it very intentionally so that the schedule lined up with the chronological last scene as well. And all of us were so consumed by emotions. there it is. I'm watching it yet again. The ending for the show. Yeah, this scene I've had in my head for so long, and it's happened. It's done. It's edited. And I'm kind of tearing up right now too. But um, yeah, we did so many takes of random walking here and there on this last day, and Mega and Sohani kept telling me, "Oh, you're stalling, you don't want it to end." As to it didn't. The heel toss over here was also thought of pretty last minute and not in the script. Oh God, the music. Oh man, I'm gonna cry. I did not know this was gonna be the last shot we ever shoot for Bombay, until this point right here with the birds flying up and the wind in her hair and that heel toss being perfect. And I knew then that this is it. I was shooting the last scene. No one else did at the time. That this would be the final take. And then she finally looks at us and smiles, and it's over. I'm gonna leave it right there, and I don't think I'm gonna talk over everything else, but it's been quite a journey, and thank you so much for sharing it with us. I'm gonna leave it there, and I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you enjoyed our work, and if you did, just I'm always free to talk. I loved making this show, and it has been such an integral part of my life, not just at college, but my life in general. And I will always be so grateful for everyone that worked on this, everyone that made it possible. And yeah, I will always love Bombay. Thank you for watching. I guess I lied when I said I wasn't going to talk over this, but thank you for watching. This is Vikram signing off for the last time. Bye bye.